All right. Bible AV52. Oops. One sec. All right. Bible AV 24. 51. Job chapter 24 to 32. Man, I wish I would have picked up reading a long time ago. 24 to 32. This is so much fun. All right, Job 24. Why does the Almighty not set a time? Why do those who know him not see his day? People move boundary markers. They carry off flocks for their own pasture. They drive away the donkey of fatherless children and seize the widow's bull as security for a loan. They force the poor off the road. They help the helpless of the earth must hide from them. The poor forage for food like wild donkeys in the wilderness. They seek food in the desert for their children. They must harvest in another's field and glean from the vineyard of the wicked. They spend the night naked, without clothing. They have no covering for the cold. They are drenched by the mountain rains. They cling to the rocks for lack of shelter. The fatherless child is snatched away from the breast, and the garments of the poor are taken as security for a loan, forcing them to go about naked without clothing, and hungry as they carry the sheaves of grain. They toil among the terrace walls in the heat of the day. They tread the wine presses, yet they go thirsty. The dying keep groaning in the city. The fatally wounded cry for help. But God does not regard this as improper. There are those who rebel against light. They do not recognize its ways, and they do not follow its paths. The murderer rises at daybreak. He slays the help and the poor, while at night he engages in theft them. The eye of the adulterer waits for me in the twilight, saying, "No one will ever see me," and he covers his face. In the darkness they break into houses. By day they shut themselves in. They are strangers to the light. For morning is the same as deep darkness for them. They are familiar with the terrors of the deep darkness, but they are swiftly carried away by the waters. Of their portion of the land will be cursed. They will not return to their vineyards. Just as drought and heat take away the melted snow, the grave takes away those who have sinned. His mother will forget him. The maggot will feast on him. He will be remembered no more. And unrighteousness will be broken just like a tree. He preys on the barren woman and mistreats the widow. God will use his strength to do away with the powerful. Though they may rise up, they have no assurance of life. God lets them become confident and secure, but his eyes are on everything they do. They are exalted for a little while, then they are no more. They are brought low and gathered like everyone else. They are cut off like heads of grain. Now who can prove me a liar or refute my word? Job 25. Bildad the Shuhite said in reply, "Rulership and fearsome might are his. He establishes peace in heaven. Can his troops be numbered? Upon whom does his light not rise? So how can mortal man be righteous before God? Or how can one born of a woman be innocent? Even the moon is not bright, and the stars are not pure in his eyes. How much less so mortal man who is a maggot, and a son of man who is a worm?" Job 26. Job said in reply, "How have you helped the one with no power? How have you saved the arm that has no strength? What great advice have you given to the one lacking wisdom? How freely you have revealed your practical wisdom. To whom you are trying to speak, and who inspired you to say such things? Those who are powerless in death tremble, and they are even lower than the waters and their inhabitants. The grave is naked in front of God, and the place of destruction lies uncovered. He stretches out the northern sky over empty space, suspending the earth upon nothing. He wraps up the waters in his clouds, so that the clouds do not burst under their weight. He shuts off the view of his throne, spreading out his cloud over it. He marks out the horizon of the surface of the waters. He makes a boundary between light and darkness. The very pillars of heaven shake. They are stunned by his rebuke. He stirs up the sea with his power, and by his understanding he breaks the sea monster to pieces. With his breath he makes the skies clear, his hand pierces the elusive serpent. Look, these are just the fringes of his ways. Only a faint whisper has been heard of him, of who can understand his mighty thunder. Job 27. Job continued his discourse, saying, As surely as God lives, who has deprived me of justice, as the Almighty lives, who has made me bitter? As long as my breath is with me, and spirits from God is in my nostrils, my lips will not speak unrighteousness, nor will my tongue mutter deceit. It is unthinkable for me to declare you men to declare you men righteous. Until I die, I will not renounce my integrity. I will maintain my righteousness and never let it go. My heart will not condemn me as long as I live. May my enemy become the wicked, those assaulting me like the unrighteous. For what hope does the godless man have when he is destroyed, when God takes away his life? Will God hear his outcry when distress comes upon him? Or will he find delight in the Almighty? Will he call on God at all times? I will teach you about the power of God. I will not hide anything about the Almighty. Look, if you have all seen visions, why are your speeches completely empty? This is the wicked man's share from God, the inheritance that tyrants receive from the Almighty. If his sons become many, they will fall by the sword, and his descendants will not have enough food. Those who survive him will be buried by the plague, and their widows will not weep for them. Even if he plies up silver like the dust and stores up fine clothing like the clay, though he may gather it, the righteous man will wear it, and the innocent will divide up his silver. The house he builds is as fragile as a moth's cocoon, like a shelter made by a watchman. He will go to bed rich, but will gather nothing there. When he opens his eyes, nothing will be there. Terror overtakes him like a flood. A storm snatches him away by night. An east wind will carry him off, and he will be gone. It sweeps him away from his place. Okay. Sorry, I saw a light in my eye. That was weird. It will hurl itself at him without pity as he desperately tries to flee from its force. It claps its hands at him and whistles at him from its place. Job 28. There is a place to mine silver and a place for gold that they refine. Iron is taken from the ground and copper is smelted from rocks. Man conquers the darkness. He probes to the limit of the gloom and darkness, searching for ore. He sinks a shaft far from where people reside, in forgotten places, far from where people walk. Some men descend and swing suspended. Food grows on top of the earth, but below there is in a people as if by fire. There is in the stones is sapphire, and the dust contains gold. No bird of prey knows the path to it. The eye of a black kite has not seen it. No majestic beast has trodden on it. The young lion has not prowled there. Man strikes the flinty rock with his hand. He overturns the mountains at their foundation. He cuts water channels in the rock. His eyes spot every precious thing. He dams up sources of rivers and brings what was hidden to the light. But wisdom where it can be found, and where is the source of understanding? No man recognizes its value, and cannot be found in the land of the living. The deep waters say, It is not in me, and the sea says, It is not with me. It cannot be bought with pure gold, nor can silver be weighed out in exchange for it. It cannot be bought with pure gold or Ophir, nor with rare onyx and sapphire. Gold and glass cannot be compared to it, nor can a vessel of fine gold be exchanged for it. Coral and crystal are not worthy of mention, for a bag full of wisdom is worth more than one full of pearls. The topaz of Cush cannot be compared to it. It cannot be purchased even with pure gold. But from where does wisdom come? And where is the source of understanding? It has been hidden from the eyes of every living thing and concealed from the birds of the heavens. Destruction and death say, Our ears have heard only a report of it. God understands the way to find it. He alone knows where it resides, for he looks to the ends of the earth, and he sees everything under the heavens. When he sets the force of the wind and measured out the waters, when he made a regulation for the rain and a path for the thunderous storm cloud, then he saw wisdom and explained it. He established and tested it. And he said to man, Look and look, the fear of Jehovah, that is wisdom, and it turned away from bad is understanding. Job 29. Job continued his discourse, saying, "If only I were in the months gone by, in the days when God was watching over me, when he caused his lamp to shine upon my head, when I walked through darkness by his light, when I was in my prime, when God's friendship was felt in my tent, when the Almighty was still with me, when my children were all around me, when my steps were awash in butter, and the rocks poured out streams of oil for me, when I used to go out to the city gate and take my seat in the public square, the young men would see me and step aside, and even the old men would rise and remain standing. Princes refrained from speaking. They would put their hand over their mouth. The voices of the prominent men were silenced. Their tongue was stuck to the roof of their mouth. Whoever heard me would speak well of me, and those who saw me would testify for me. For I would rescue the poor who cried for help, along with the fatherless child and anyone who had no helper. The one about to perish would bless me, and I made the heart of the widow rejoice. I put on righteousness as my clothing. My justice was like a robe and a turban. I became eyes to the blind and feet to the lame. I was a father to the poor. I would investigate the legal case of those I did not know. I would break the jaws of the wrongdoer and tear the prey away from his teeth. I used to say, I will die in my own home, and my days will be as numerous as the grains of sand. The roots will spread out into the waters, and dew will stay all night on my branches. My glory is constantly renewed, and the bow in my hands will keep shooting. People will listen expectantly, waiting in silence for my advice. After I had spoken, they had nothing more to say. My words would fall gently on their ears. They waited for me as for the rain. They opened their mouth wide as for the spring rain. When I smiled at them, they would hardly believe it. The light of my face would reassure them. I gave them directions as their head, and I lived like a king among his troops, like the one who comforts the mourners. Job 30. Now they laugh at me, men younger than I am, whose fathers I would have refused. To put with dogs that have guarded my flock, of what use was the power of their hands to me? Their vigor has perished. They are worn out from want and hunger. They gnaw at the parched ground that was already ruined and desolated. They gather the salt herb from the bushes. Their food is the root of broom trees. They are driven out of the community. People shout at them as they would at a thief. They live on the slopes of ravines and holes in the ground and in the rocks. From the bushes they cry out and huddle together among the nettles. As sons of the senseless and the nameless ones, they have been driven out of the land. But now they mock me even in their songs. I have become an object of scorn to them. They detest me and keep their distance from me. They do not hesitate to spit in my face. Because God has disarmed me and humbled me, they throw off all restraint in my presence. On my right, they rise up like a mob. They put me to flight and put up barriers of destruction in my path. They tear up my roadways and make my calamity worse without anyone to stop them. They come as though a wide breach in the wall. They roll in amid the devastation. Terror overwhelms me. My dignity is driven away like the wind, and my salvation vanishes like a cloud. Now my life ebbs from me. Days of affliction take hold of me. Aching pierces my bones. At night, the gnawing pain never stops. With great force, my garment is disfigured. Like the collar of my garment, it chokes me. God has thrown me down in the mud. I am reduced to dust and ashes. I cry to you for help, but you do not answer me. I stand up, but you look at me. You just look at me. You have cruelly turned against me. With the full might of your hand, you assault me. You pick me up and carry me off with the wind. Then you toss me about in the storm. For I know that you will bring me down to death, to the house where everyone living will meet. But no one would strike at a broken man as he cries for help during his time of disaster. Have I not wept for those who have fallen on hard times? Have I not grieved for the poor? Although I hoped for good, bad came. I expected the light, but darkness came. The churning inside me did not stop. Days of affliction confronted me. I walk about gloomy. There is no sunlight. In the assembly I rise and cry for help. I have become a brother to jackals, and my companion to the daughters of the ostrich. My skin has blackened and fallen off. My bones burn from the heat. My harp is used only for mourning, and my flute for the sound of weeping. Okay. I'm going to keep the light on now. Did I say 32 or did I say 34? 32. Okay. Job 31. I have made a covenant with my eyes, so how could I show improper attention to a virgin? What then would my share from God above? What inheritance from the Almighty on high? Does not disaster await the wrongdoer, and calamity those what is harmful? Does he not see my ways and count all my steps? Have I ever walked in untruth? Has my foot hurried to deceive? Let God weigh me with accurate scales, then he will recognize my integrity. If my footsteps deviate from my way, or my heart has followed after my eyes, or my hands have been defiled, then let me sow seed and someone else eat, and let what I plant be uprooted. If my heart has been enticed by a woman, and I have lain in wait, at my neighbor's door, then let my wife grind grain for another man, and let other men have sexual relations with her. For that would be shameful conduct, an error deserving punishment by the judges. It would be a fire that would devour and destroy, consuming even the roots of all my produce. If I deny justice to my male or female servants when they had a complaint against me, what can I do when God confronts me? What can I answer him when he calls for an accounting? Did not the one who made me in the womb also make them? Was it not the same one who formed us before our birth? If I refused to give the poor what they desired, or sat in the eyes of the widow, if I ate my portion of food alone without sharing it with the orphans, for from my youth the orphan grew up with me as though I were his father, and I have been a guide for the widow from childhood. If I saw anyone perishing for lack of clothing, or a poor man with nothing to cover himself, if he did not bless me, as he warned himself with the wool of my sheep, if I shook my fist against the orphan when he needed my assistance in the city gate, then let my arm fall from my shoulder, and let my arm be broken at the elbow, for I dreaded disaster from God, and I could not stand before his dignity. If I put my confidence in gold, or said to fine gold, you are my security, if I found my joy in my great wealth, because of my many possessions I acquired, if I saw the sun shining, or the moon moving in its splendor, and my heart was secretly enticed, and my mouth kissed my hand in worship of them, then that would be an error deserving punishment by the judges, for I would have denied the true God above. Have I ever rejoiced over the destruction of my enemy, or gloated because evil befell him? I never allowed my mouth to sin by asking for his life in an oath. Have the men of my tent not said, who can find anyone who has not been satisfied with his food? No stranger had to spend the night outside. I open my doors to the traveler. Have I ever tried to cover out over my transgressions like other men by hiding my error in the pocket of my garment? Have I been in fear of the reaction of the multitude, or have I been terrified by the contempt of other families, making me silent and afraid to go outside? If only someone would listen to me, I would sign my name to what I have said. Let the Almighty answer me. If only my accuser had written out the charges in a document, I would carry it on my shoulder, and it would bind it around my head like a crown. I would give him an account for every step I took. I would approach him confidently like a prince. If my own ground would cry out against me, and its furrows would weep together, if I have eaten its fruitage without payment, or if I have crushed its owners to despair, then let thorns sprout for me instead of wheat, and foul-smelling weeds instead of barley. The words of Job end here. Job 32. So these three men stopped trying to answer Job because he was convinced of his own righteousness. But Elihu, the son of Barachel, the Buzite, of the family of Ram, had become very angry. His anger blazed against Job for trying to prove himself right rather than God. He was also very angry with Job's three companions because they could not find an answer, but had declared God wicked. Elihu had been waiting to respond to Job because they were older than he was. When Elihu saw that the three men had nothing to say in answer, his anger flared up. So Elihu, the son of Barachel, the Buzite, began to speak, saying, I am young, and you men are aged, so I respectfully held back, and I dared not tell you what I know. I thought, let age speak, and let a multitude of years declare wisdom. But it is the spirit in people, the breath of the Almighty, that gives them understanding. Age alone does not make one wise, nor is it only old men who understand what is right. So I say, listen to me, and I will also tell you what I know. Look, I have waited for your words. I kept listening to your reasoning as you searched for things to say. I paid close attention to you, but none of you could prove Job wrong or answer his arguments. So do not say, we have found wisdom. It is God who refutes him, not a man. He did not direct his words against me, so I will not reply to him with your arguments. They are dismayed. They have no more answers. They have nothing left to say. I have waited, but they do not continue speaking. They just stand there with no further answer. So I too will give an answer. I too will tell what I know, for I am full of words. The spirit within me compels me. My insides are like wine that has no vent, like new wineskins ready to burst. Let me speak so that I can find relief. I will open my lips and give an answer. I will not show partiality to anyone, nor will I flatter any human, for I do not know how to flatter. If I did, my Maker would quickly do away with me. And that's the end of AV52.